feeling a little peckish tonight.
Good evening and welcome to the February 25th meeting of the Administration of Public Works Committee, City of Evanston. We have a quorum. First item of business is approval of our minutes from our meeting on February 11th, 2013.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Items for consideration, A1, City of Evanston payroll through February 10th, 2013 of $2,660,167.75. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. A2, City of Evanston bills for fiscal year 2013. It looks like that was the end of 2012 bills, Mr. Lyons? Of $2,303,695.03. Is there a motion? Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Some time to consider the additional information related to the bills? Alderman Holmes, do you have any questions? Alderman Rainey?
I think these bills, very few questions were asked, but the few that were are so revealing. And I've always maintained the way you learn what's going on in the city is you read the bills. Unbelievable.
You too. Any other questions or comments?
I just,
Are we ready for a vote? All in favor?
No.
You're not ready for a vote, or it's a
I'm just
no
in
vote on the bills?
opposition to it. I'm just voting no against the
Okay.
bills.
All right. To approve the bills?
I believe I'll have to take them off the consent agenda.
All right. Alderman Holmes, what's your vote? We'll go one by one.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to get my...
Oh, you're still, all right.
Asking Ms. Cortez to come up and help me fix my computer. I'm having a problem.
All
So
right.
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening. On the bills?
Yes. Are you ready to vote on the bills?
I'm ready to vote on the bills.
What's your vote?
Yes.
Alderman Rainey, what's your vote?
Yes.
Yes, all right. Aye, so I think it's a 4-1 on
But,
approving the bill.
when we discuss it further, I would like to know.
I heard you say yes.
What,
Yeah.
why you're voting no.
All right.
Just because maybe that will help us.
All right. Thank you, there being one opposed. Item A, 3.1, approval of the 2013 contract with G&M Trucking for granular materials in the amount of $34,747.50, with funding from both our water and sewer funds.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. A 3.2, approval of a contract renewal with Garda Armored Car Services through November 30th, 2013, in the not-to-exceed amount of $75,000.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item A 3.3 is staff's recommendation for our approval of a one-year bid award with 3 one-year option renewals for transmission repairs with ATR transmissions in Mundelein in the amount of $28,615.
Move approval.
Second.
Thank you. We have one speaker, Mr. Sanctarash. Please join us.
Hi, my name is Jafar Sanctrash. I own transmission shop in Evanston, JMB Transmission. And first of all, we missed the deadline on that bidding, and that was our fault. Second of all, the way the question was, they gave us some cars, name of a car, just name of the car, and to give a price on the transmission. Knowing the fact each of those cars comes with at least 2 different powertrain, 2, maybe 3 different transmission. So we needed VIN number of that car to give a specific price on it. Different between pricing on the same car's transmission from one transmission to another one will be about $1,500 difference on the price. Starting like $1,200 goes up to $2,700, $2,800. So we couldn't really come up with the right number to do that.
And I understand, Mr. Lyons, it is possible for us in future to provide VIN numbers for vehicles that we are thinking that we could use transmission repair on?
Yes, Madam Chair. For any of the vehicles, we can provide VIN numbers, and they may vary. So we could provide, as the speaker pointed out, we could provide a VIN number for the vehicle that has the larger transmission or the smaller, depending
Yes.
on what realizing that a 2010 X vehicle may have 2 transmissions possible.
Just
depending
for
on the type.
example, in here, we got a Ford Ranger. We got from 1999 to 2008. This vehicle, they may look outside of the same, but they do carry about 3 different powertrain, 3 different transmission. And the cheapest one of them goes from $700. And the expensive one goes $1,960 difference.
Are you reading from the bid specifications?
Yeah, these are my
Okay.
note. I was getting myself ready to give a bid, but we missed the deadline anyway, so I didn't want to even do it anyway because I called in and asked for more information, and they didn't give me more information. So we basically got the cold feet about it. We said, we don't want it. How am I going to do it?
Well, let's discuss this. Alderman Braithwaite and then Alderman Rainey.
Thank you. And so part of the concern, and I had a conversation with Jafar regarding this bid, is that his concern was his ability to be able to deliver a quality job to the city. And so what he explained, to me at least, is that he needed additional information. So I just encouraged him to contact purchasing. So it was through the back and forth dialogue that is part of the reason that he missed the deadline. But I think this is one of those rare occasions that we actually have, or at least I could say that I actually have an opportunity to kind of hear what happens behind the scenes with a particular bid. I find it very interesting that, you know, you look up and down this list and no one else responded. And so part of my concern would be either we're getting a really good deal on this particular bid, or part of what I read, which is this isn't feasible to respond without the right information. And so maybe I could ask, you know, Jafar, from your professional opinion, and I don't know if this is a fair question, but $28,000 to repair all those cars, what are your thoughts on that as a mechanic?
$28,000 we got in here, and we got 21 transmission. So that leaves us about $1,100 a transmission. And looking at the list we have in here, all of these like expeditions, those police cars, part-wise cost that much. How we could afford to do the labor on it. And I got hourly labor. If you'd be interested, I will hand you this paper, see how many hours it takes every one of them to do it. Hourly rate and the labor of it and the part of it. It's not feasible. I don't think that's an accurate estimate.
We have more questions. Alderman Rainey, and then Alderman Holmes. And I see that Public Works Director Robinson is waiting.
I had a conversation with a printer in Evanston who, this is going to relate to this, who told me that he did review the specs for the arts and recreation printing, and that while his company could do it, he found that the company in another state that we hired to do it had to be losing a ton of money on the job because they've been in the business 40 years and they know what paper, ink, and machinery and computers cost. So I think sometimes we have, this is an out-of-towner who has won the bid. I think maybe to get into town, maybe that's what they do. I'm not sure. But in this case, my first glance, and I told Peter this, my first glance was at this, the whole operation was, oh my God, our staff worked really hard to get people to respond. That was my first reaction. Then listening to Peter talk about talking to some of the bidders, I thought, you know, this has to be done a little differently. Now, I have an issue on the agenda tonight about the 5% advantage for Evanston businesses, for contractors. This is exactly the kind of bid I don't want that issue to be removed from, because we have so many big bids that Evanstonians can't bid on. I mean, we just don't have the businesses, we don't have the equipment, we don't have the contractors, whatever. But some of this automotive stuff, and there's lots of it, we could really focus in to make sure that Evanstonians get these jobs. I know North Suburban Auto has just been rejected. They get other bids, they get Lincolnwood and things, but boy, they get wiped out of auto supplies for local. And almost every bills list, I send him a copy of what we're buying from CarQuest. I said, can you supply this stuff? And he says, of course I could. Of course I could. But something always happens with the bid packages. So, like you said, you looked at it and you didn't feel that you had enough information, and secondly, you didn't feel you had the time or the inclination when you didn't have the details to fill it out. My inclination here would be either to give only a one-year contract with absolutely no extensions, or if our city attorney says it's okay, to reject all the bids and do it again and say that we didn't do it properly. I'm not sure. But if he says no, then I would encourage us not to do more than a one-year bid and work on a new bid.
I guess my first question probably will go to Director Robinson. Have we done business with ATR before? Or are they a new business coming into town?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Good evening, Chairman Grover, City Council. Suzette Robinson, Director of Public Works. Actually, ATR has the existing bid, so this would be the previous bid that was submitted in 2010. They were the award for one portion of that bid. And I just wanted to go over a few issues as it relates to this bid, and specifically. So in 2010, we basically had the same type of bid that went out, and we have 5 responders that to that bid in 2010. And so what we did in terms of the specs, they were, and we issued no VIN numbers. The bid was this The bid in 2013 actually contains more detailed and more information. We split the vehicles out. There was more specific detail provided in the 2013 bid. We have no. So let me just go over the purchasing process. When there are issues, when there are technical issues, the technical portions of the specs, the project manager, in this case would be Lonnie Jeske as the fleet manager, answers those types of questions. So when those questions come into purchasing, purchasing submits hey, this is the issue, this is the technical issue. And we would submit an addendum. This is not, and we do it all the time. Well, I shouldn't say all the time because we don't, whenever we have questions that come in, we share questions with everybody that we send a bid packet to. So they would get an addendum and say, hey, this issue came up. It's, a technical question that we think should be addressed, and we send it back out to all the vendors as an addendum. And as a result, depending on what the issue is, we would actually adjust the bid date. So we receive no questions in Public Works, no technical questions or concerns about this particular bid.
I find it interesting that the gentleman just spoke. Talks about not having enough information, and so did the Crawford Auto Service also pointed that out. So I don't know what happened, and I hear you saying that it doesn't come directly to you, the questions, but would come through purchasing and then purchasing back to you. Is
that's correct?
Okay, I just want to understand the process.
And we're in contact with purchasing. It's not a where it's not a disconnected type of process, so that,
But all I'm saying
yes.
is, and I hear you, I understand that, but I'm simply saying that when the call comes in, it goes into purchasing. It doesn't come directly to you.
That's
so
correct. That's correct.
There has to be a connection made.
That's correct.
Okay, so I just wanted to be sure I was right on that. The other thing that I just found, Alderman Rethwaite and I talked about it, that you only have one response out of all of them, and 5 of them being Evanston businesses. And Evanston business and trying to keep business in Evanston is one of the things that I'm pushing very, very hard. I just got to find out what's wrong with our process, if it's something wrong with our process. If it's not, that's fine, if it's not us. But if it is us, then we need to figure out a way to clear it up, because I don't want to see, I hear Alderman Rainey saying, and she's absolutely right, we don't have large businesses and companies that can probably do the $1 million plus bids, but we do have others that could do some of the bids. And this is just not for your department, but for all of the departments. And we need to figure out a way to how to keep some of that business here in Evanston. So I don't know what the legal department is going to say, but I certainly would be in favor of rejecting it and going back again.
Pushing the reset button on this?
Yes.
Bid? Mr. Bobkowitz, Mr. Farrar?
As I know you're aware, we have made some changes in our purchasing management, and I think that will help the cause moving forward. So department's going to respond to questions that they get, and I think the departments have good relationships with the staff in purchasing. However, with new leadership in the purchasing division, that should help the cause. So if you'd like to reject, please go right ahead. I think we also need to be clear that as individual businesses receive the bids and as we document that, we are not in a position to aggressively ask them to respond. We should be there to answer appropriate questions. If you are looking for us to be aggressive in soliciting responses, we are not currently staffed to do that, but that's not what we do.
We can't.
And I
hold
don't
their
think we're
hands
asking for that, because
right.
if you remember, I believe it was, I can't remember which month it was, but we did have one where someone had said that they hadn't gotten it, and the staff was able to show that they had sent it out. So I don't think that's what we're asking. We're just asking, at least I am, I'm just asking for fairness and to make sure that everybody will have a fair chance and that they understand what the bid request is.
They're professionals. I assume we don't need to hold our businesses' hands
Absolutely.
through the whole process.
Absolutely.
And they could. Alderman Rainey?
I'm not so sure you're right on that. I think technically they're probably extremely adequate to excellent, but in terms of filling out some of these forms and making sure that everything is in the right box at the right time, and understanding deadlines and that. I'm not so sure you're right on that. I think the whole issue of the pre-bid conference is very, very helpful. And if we could do that with some of these smaller bids where we know we have vendors in Evanston who could respond, that might be helpful. You know, okay, folks, we're going to do transmissions. We're going to be doing a month and a half. We're having a meeting. You don't come, tough. That's it. You know, we're going to have a meeting and explain how you do this.
And Madam Chair, members of the committee, what I guess I would like to propose this evening is if you would prefer that we go out again for transmissions, we're happy to do that. I would also ask that perhaps maybe we come back to this committee in 60 days, 45 days with a topic of purchasing and what we are doing to try to make the processes better. I think we need to do outreach. I think there are a number of Evanston businesses who have given up doing business with us.
I think you're right.
And so I think we need to, once we have a better sense of our new direction, we are now actively soliciting for a new purchasing coordinator. I think will be the new title, not purchasing manager, since this will now be managed through the finance division. Once that individual new hire is in place, I think we can come back to the council, but then also reach out to our businesses and saying, you know, we've tried to come up with a bid form that perhaps is a little easier, a little bit more understandable. We're prepared to be as responsive as need be with questions, and that may help reset our relationship with many of our bidders who have just given up on us over time because either we've not been, in their opinion, responsive or the forms have been too cumbersome for the amount of money. Here again, we're talking $28,000. I think there's a cost benefit for any business. How much time, energy, and effort are they willing to put forward for what's probably a medium contract for some of these businesses?
Well, it looks like this one's an opportunity to restart it and see if we can fine-tune our processes.
As long as the committee's prepared, if
the forms.
we get 2 responses instead of 1 response.
2 more yeses to the bid response.
As long as there's not the expectation that we are holding hands.
Right.
But are being clear and being responsive to questions, we are absolutely prepared to do that. And so we would be happy to go out again as quickly as reasonable.
Alderman Braithwaite?
Well, I guess my first question is, do we need a motion to reject? And then I'll make my comment.
Let me just defeat the agenda item. Alderman Rainey?
Because the new bidder, the winning bidder, or the most responsive bidder, is the current vendor, there won't be any gap in service, right? Because we can negotiate with that person to stay on board until...
That's normally can be the case, that there would be an extension, or we receive a one-off service, which would probably be at a higher cost than what we're currently having for any of those instances. So my guess, this is probably a 60-day process to come back.
It may be a little longer than that because the contractor that won the bid shared his price. So, I mean, typically, if we're not going to accept a bid, we don't, so everybody has full view of that. So we will probably just quote for a year, redo the specs, and submit. So we'll do it on a case-by-case basis.
Alderman Rainey?
I'm thinking we should do this for a year and just start working. No? All right. It's just
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
I mean, it sounds as if that we're going to have higher costs. So, I mean, and I think that's one of Director Robinson's concerns is, while it's important to be discussing, I think it's on a broader scale, on a very micro scale, we're going to come back and have higher costs.
Mr. Lyons?
If I may, just a couple of things on process. As you noted, when you looked at some of these individual costs, we can do individual quotes for this over the next couple of months, where it's a little bit more work on the part of Fleet to say, all right, I have a Ford Ranger, I need to get 3 quotes to have this transmission redone. And that's a part of our purchasing policy. So that would happen over the next 30 to 60 days. And that is a process that we have done in the past. We're doing this so that we can get lower pricing overall. So we can handle that over the next 30 to 60 days. Regarding the holding of hands, one of the things that we can also work on is in line with the procurement 101, we can also look to our economic development staff so that we have a little separation of duties, because we can't have the same people regulating also helping. So if our economic development staff and a few others on staff are also the ones reaching out to help explain our purchasing process, then our purchasing staff are not the ones in the middle of helping someone complete their bid and then evaluating their bid. That's something we really cannot do. So I think we can look at that. And then I think the last thing that I think might be helpful is to also, when we redo this, to show the actual performance of the current vendor for the past year. They're bidding $28,000. Did they meet that for the 2012 year? And we'll have that in the follow-up report.
All right. It's been moved and seconded to approve a one-year bid award with 3 one-year option renewals for transmission repairs from ATR Transmissions. All in favor?
Maybe we should reject it.
Any opposed?
No.
No.
Yeah.
All right. So motion fails.
And what was the final? Was it 05?
Alderman Rainey, what was your vote?
No, I just thought that the motion should be to reject the bid as opposed to
Rejecting the bid.
make a.
It was the motion on the floor.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That was a motion on the floor, so we have to complete it. It's a 5-0.
That's sort of
Thank you.
Same thing, just have to.
A 3.4, approval of a contract extension with Ozinga Ready Mix Concrete to purchase 350 cubic yards of concrete at a cost of $97 per cubic yard, 200 cubic yards of high early strength concrete, which costs $118 per cubic yard, plus 50 cubic yards of flowable fill for a cost of $86 per cubic yards, for a total of $64,000.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. A 3.5, approval of funding for the Evanston 4th of July Association in the amount of $10,000. Is there a motion?
Second.
I believe we have members of the 4th of July Association here with us. I might want to address the committee. Please come forward. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair, council members, staff, and residents. My name's Tracy Alden. I'm the president of the Evanston 4th of July Association. Hillary Bean is our treasurer, but also is serving today as the parade director to answer some questions. And we respect your time, but I just want to give you a couple of, we want to say congratulations to Evanston on 150 years. This is a big deal for us as well. The 4th of July Association has been around since 1921, and we serve all the community. And we want to really make this a great year, and we really appreciate your support. It's been great to have good cooperation with staff, Matt and Doug from the Recreation Department, and everyone else. And so we just want to give you a little background of as to what's going on. I was here in the Centennial 50 years ago. I was a kid and participated in the games and the events. I've now ascended, I suppose, to president, and for the is it the Quesqui? 150, whatever, 150. Sisqua, thank you. And if I'm around for the bicentennial, maybe she'll make me the grand marshal of the parade. So, with that, thank you.
Well, we're ready to vote on that now, aren't we? Yeah.
So I'll ask Hillary to kind of let you know what we'd like to do with the funds that are before you, and if I may approach the dais and give you last year's program just as reference.
Great. Ms. Bean.
Good evening.
Thank you, Tracy.
This is my 7th year as parade director. I will have a co-director this year, so I can maybe start stepping away from it. But in the meantime, I have the most knowledge of the paid performers, and that's obviously what we're speaking about is the $10,000 that will be used to supplement what we have in the parade on a regular basis. We generally have the same groups in every year. Contracts have gone out for most of those same groups. We are expanding now based on the hope for these funds and are reaching out to some other groups. We have costs run anywhere from $300 to $400 for the calliope, for instance, that goes down at the beginning of the parade route, to $3,500 for South Shore Drill Team, and that's not even a full squad. So the range of costs is large. We're looking to augment with the funds that we would receive from the 150 grants. Sorry, the 150 grants. 2 or 3 in the $1,500 to $2,000 range, 2 or 3 in the $1,000 range, and add some variety and some things that haven't been seen before, because these would in effect be paid performers. We do work with some of the other municipalities, parade groups, to try to amortize the costs of a group that's appearing in Skokie and in Evanston, and we're still working on that because everyone's still working. But in general, we have access to, and we look forward to augmenting the parade this year based on the generous gift from the city.
Right. Ms. Bean,
Yes.
if someone else wanted to make a donation to the 4th of July Association for this year's festivities, how would they do that? Do you have a website?
The website is evanston4th.org. That's evanston4th.org. There's a donate button on there. It goes through PayPal, so we would appreciate any and all donations. We also have an endowment fund that we are starting with, and another matching fund that we are working on this year. So our fundraising is also expanding this year for operational and for endowments. But thank you very much. We hope to
Thank you very
Garner
much.
your
I'll
support.
see you Election Day at the polling place.
indeed, Jay.
Mhm.
Alderman Gray.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Alden. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Or Alderman Burris, you had a... Sorry, wait. Hold on.
Yes,
Alderman Burris has it.
I have a couple questions.
Yes.
The first is, does the city usually fund the 4th of July celebration? We don't usually give funding, do we?
It's a cooperative venture I was going to say, the 4th of July Association has a budget. We pay for all the morning activities, the games at the parks. We pay for all the parade entries, all the paid performers, the fireworks at night, which is our greatest, single largest expense, as well as the concert that takes place at the lagoon. Obviously, the city services, though, are critical to the operation. So I'll let Matt maybe address.
So we don't normally write a check to 4th of
Oh,
July?
absolutely.
Okay.
Correct.
But so all the fire service, the police service, you guys do the cleanup afterwards, but all of the city services are in-kind contributions to the 4th of July. And have we quantified how much that is per year?
Yeah. I think Mr. Gaynor has some of that information.
Great, thank you.
Last year.
Yeah. Thanks, Doug.
Doug Gaynor, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Community Services. Members of the committee, about $65,000 is what the in-kind is. That includes cleanup, police, fire, the recreation, the whole thing.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I have my book at home. Is the city acknowledged in the book for that amount exactly of the in-kind donation?
The city is acknowledged on the poster as
A primary,
partner,
okay.
Ms. Bean, speak to the microphone, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, sorry, I do the program too.
No, that's
so.
okay.
The city is acknowledged on the poster and in the program as our partner.
Great.
And there is, in the thank yous, which are in the program every year, there is also discussion, thank you of all the city services and what the city provides
Okay,
for the day.
the reason I ask, well, as you know, I'm very, very important about donor recognition, and I think it's just very, that we should be saying that explicitly. And when we also, other donors that give, we need to do a good job on the city side as well as other not-for-profits to say who's giving, if it's giving in kind, if it's actually writing a check, whatever that is, and going forward. So I have 2 more questions. One is actually for you guys, and another one's for staff. So each year, many of the aldermen participate in the parade, and Each year it seems to be confusing of what we're doing. Sometimes we all get together, sometimes we don't.
You just walk in a straight line.
There you go. Well,
that's what I do.
You know, like, well, you're going to have a car, you're not going to have a car. So if you get a car, so as you know, we've been through this 3 years in a row. If you get a car, they don't charge you anything. If you don't get a car, they do charge you to walk in the parade. So I also want to acknowledge that the aldermen all pay to walk in the parade, and it's not a free service for us to walk in the parade. So we are also contributing individually to be part of the 4th of July celebration.
Yes, I can.
And we're happy to help fund the
Happy
festivities.
to do that, but I
Happy
just wanted
help.
to be, because each year it seems that it's a different, so to be more clear for all the elected officials, to have a clear understanding of what should be done would be very helpful.
There's 2 different levels for we pay for the antique cars to come be in the parade, and in years past, and again, this is going back 5-10 years, many of the aldermen and city officials would ride in those cars and be in the parade that way, and we funded those cars.
Okay, got it.
So what happened then is at some point we said, well, if you're going to ride in one of our antique cars, we'd like it if you could help defray the cost of the car. And that's where that one charge came in, if you're going to use one of our cars. If you're going to be an entrance in the parade with your community group, as 6th and 7th wards do, there is a different fee structure for parade entrance.
Right, yeah, so I
that's-
walk with
right.
Ridgeville Park District folks, and so that's separate
So
as well.
that's
Okay.
how that was the genesis of the
Great. I just think it
antique
would be
car.
clear. That'd be great. So thank you very much.
You're
We
very
have fun
welcome,
doing
sirs.
it, so just want to make sure it's clear. And my other question is, the $25K that we allocated for the celebration, we've now given away $10,000. Do we have ideas what we're doing with the other $15,000?
Mr. Bobkowitz is going to help us with that one.
Celebrating the 150th anniversary of the city has become a cottage industry for me, as you know. No, we do not. Mrs. Todd, who I guess is around but not in the room, has been participating in a celebration group that the Evanston 150 organization has put together. We have provided some in-kind services to them as far as helping schedule things, but there has not been any other group that has come forward. I've been having discussions with the Parade Association for 6, 7, 8 months now about this $10,000. The city, as part of the allocation of funds, also agreed to do a luncheon in the fall, late fall. So other than that, I don't anticipate that we'll have another request, but if we do, we'll come forward.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bobkowitz. Mr. Alderman Braithwaite, do you have any? It's been moved and seconded. Alderman Rainey. Mm-hmm.
I think the issue of being reimbursed for services or what we give to the 4th of July is greatly underestimated, because I believe that 90% of all Evanston residents believe that the city of Evanston fully funds the 4th of July celebrations and the fireworks. That's what people think. And they are astonished to hear that that's not the case, that it is a private effort primarily. I mean, $10,000 is a drop in the bucket, and I don't think it could be better spent any place than at the 150th anniversary. It's a big deal.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying.
What better year to ramp it up?
Pardon me?
What better year to ramp it up? The 4th of July celebration.
I know, 151 wouldn't be so special. No.
It doesn't have the same ring to it.
No.
All right, to say it again, it has been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. 3.6 is approval of a renewal of the annual Oracle Enterprise One Maintenance and Support Agreement for Enterprise One software in the amount of $136,717.32, which is 8.4% less than the original contract price for this. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. A4, approval of change order number 3 for the Evanston Water Utility SCADA Phase 3 engineering services in the amount of $6,250 and a time extension of 60 calendar days to this agreement that we have with CDM Smith, Inc.
Move approval.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. A5 is Resolution 12R13 authorizing an intergovernmental agreement with the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning for an update of the city's bike plan, which was created and approved in 2003. So 10 years later, we're looking to use $100,000 of someone else's money to update our bike plan.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Any opposed? A6, Resolution 13R13, authorizing motor fuel tax funds to be used for roadway construction and related engineering costs for street resurfacing and design and construction engineering services.
Move approval.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? A7 is Ordinance 9013, authorizing the lease. Yes, ma'am.
This issue, motor fuel tax,
Rewinding to A6.
rewinding, going backwards, as we're inclined to do sometimes. Could Marty Lyons probably would be the person to explain the formula by which we get our motor fuel tax? I know that many of us think if we go to only to gas stations in Evanston, we'll get more money, but I think that's not quite the way it works.
Yes, members of the committee, Alderman Rainey, the formula for the funds that are being discussed in this item is a per capita revenue sharing amount from the state of Illinois. And I'm sorry I won't have it right at my fingertips, but our total amount is approximately, I can have it for the meeting, but it has been steady. 2 years ago, we got an additional $250,000, and we did spend that. And what we do with our MFT funds is part of it goes towards asphalt, just as you're seeing right here, and then about 1/3 or a little bit less goes to pay for the streets workers' salaries. We're allowed to use those funds for both material and labor in keeping our streets.
But my point wasn't how much we get, because we get what we get, but it's based on population. So if our population goes up, then, and is it just based on the 10-year census?
Yes, and there can be, communities can apply for a change if they had rapid growth, but it does impact us if for instance, if we don't grow as fast as the average, then we actually we could get less. So it is our per capita, and they do change it up and down because they have to calculate from the actual state motor fuel tax at the pump and convert that into a per capita grant to the cities.
Thank you.
I think we recorded a 5-0 affirmative vote on A6, Mr. Brower. A7, well, thank you, Alderman Rainey. Yes, Alderman Braithwaite.
And this is in addition to our CIP budget, correct? Budget roads.
It is actually a part of the CIP budget. So when you look at our capital improvements plan at the back of the budget, you'd see multiple funding sources, and one source would be our capital improvements bonds, and the other source would be motor fuel tax funds.
A7 is Ordinance 9013, authorizing the lease of city-owned property at 623 to 627 and a half Howard Street to Peckish One, LLC. This is a lease with an option to purchase. It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, thank you. Alderman Burris, I think you were.
I was wondering, do we have any public comments on this at all?
We do. We have two speakers.
Great.
Should we hear from them now? First, before?
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Rizky, and then Mr. Young.
Mr. Young had to leave. He told me he left. He had to go somewhere,
All right.
so he's not here.
We got his letter.
Yeah, I know he sent it to everyone who told me, so I don't know what he had to say. I saw in here peckish means somewhat hungry. I guess I'd like to know what the British adjective is for the continued problems we have with these proposals by city staff. Unfortunately, this looks like another piece of work like the Lit Theater that went from $600,000 to $1.7 million. It appeared to me as I looked at the architect's cost estimate, it didn't really match the drawings, and it confused me. It also was very unclear what is the city's financial commitment to the owners, and the numbers don't seem to agree. Is the city providing $200,000 for the building upgrade to the tenants, or is the city doing the upgrades to the so-called vanilla box? If the city is doing the upgrades, I need to understand what is the city's scope of work to do these $200,000 worth of work. It is also unclear if the city is really giving $200,000 or providing $400,000 when I read the documents. So I'm somewhat confused. It appears we're doing something similar to the wine and cheese bar, where we basically provided extra funding beyond what I would call improvements to the building. What is more troubling is the so-called estimate here does not appear to have a cost for the brewery or the patio area in it, which confused me more. And then I looked at the estimate. There doesn't appear to be any work for the structural work that the city was supposed to be doing in this estimate. So I'm very much at a loss as to what's going on here and what really scope of work is in this project. Because this, in a sense, the city is the owner in this. So the city has an obligation to do the work right. If this was a private party doing this work, I'd have no issue with this. They can do whatever they want. But this is our tax dollars being used here. So if you don't know what's going on with our money, you should have a problem with that, like I do. And it also appears we are borrowing again from the Economic Development Fund, basically, and covering with TIF revenues, which we don't have. Here again, this is a practice we're doing again. You know, we don't have the money, so we're borrowing it again. I want to understand also who from the city is responsible to execute this project. It becomes very unclear to me what city staff member is handling this whole project. And if you tell me it's Wally, you really do have a problem here, because there ought to be a staff member running this thing. And if you're going to really do project work in these types of things, it's very unclear what's going on here. On the wine and cheese bar, we spent over $600,000 of taxpayer money and soft cost of $100,000. And the issue of soft cost is basically using staff time to do all this stuff here. And that's things they're not doing right, something else they can't do. So, I mean, there's a lot of staff time tied up with this. It appears to me this project is about $675,000 from the city as I read it, though I'm not clear on that, and $300,000 from the owners. And that appears low for what I consider the amount of work here. There also appears to me another troubling issue. Because the city is the owner in this, the city goes and approves this without a possible zoning review, and then now and I look at this building down there, might have parking problems, obviously. Where's the parking lot for all the people? Same as we had with another economic development activity here. And then we're having an outdoor patio. If we have this outdoor patio and it has a stage on it, are we going to have noise issues and neighbors upset about noise? So you go ahead and you put our money in this, and then you come back and have neighbors upset. What's going on? I mean, are you going to really fairly treat the neighbors of any kinds of things? And that's a problem when the city's involved with all these projects, not this particular project, but the city has a financial interest in these things. So therefore, we as citizens our interests may be put aside. And finally, what I feel here is that we're selling off other city assets, and we're investing in new assets. And really, in closing, I feel this project needs to be relooked at. Someone needs to give correct estimates, really, as to what's going on, and provide all this, and assign who the responsible parties are here to do this work. This committee really should not recommend this to move forward until it's completely sorted out. Basically, that's the issue here. And I think city staff has a lot of explaining to do here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Iske. Alderman Burris?
Was there anybody that didn't sign up that wanted to speak?
The people from the business are here, and if they would like to say anything, I would really appreciate their coming forward. We've been working with you for a long, long time, and it might be good for, number one, for you to introduce yourself, and number two, obviously, there are people in the audience who have absolutely no idea what's going on. And so if we could just put some of those misunderstandings to rest, that would just be great. Okay. And then we'll have staff come up and speak again.
Great. Welcome, and please introduce yourselves.
Thank you. I'm Jamie Evans. Been an Evanston resident for about 17 years now. I worked in restaurants here. I worked at Tommy Nevins, and with my wife Debbie and some other partners, we opened the Celtic Knot on Church Street, across from the public library. We opened that in 2005. we were running that until recently. We sold our interest in that, and we're looking for a new project. So we're really excited about this opportunity to open a place, brewery and restaurant on Howard, and we think it's a great opportunity. It's a viable. We're excited about the success of Ward 8 right there. They're doing very, very well. And it's hard to answer all those questions that were raised. I don't have all those numbers on my fingertips, but anyway, that's what we're talking about here. So,
Thank you. Mrs. Evans,
Hi.
welcome.
Hi, my name's Deborah Evans. I've actually got something on read. I'm not very good at reading, speaking out loud, so I don't mess it up. I'm just gonna. Huh?
Your address, please.
Okay, all right. So I'm Deborah Evans, and my name is Deborah Evans. I live in Evanston for 17 years with my husband, Jamie. Some of you might remember me from Tommy and Evans, where I was the head chef and manager for 8 years. Or you might know me from the Celtic Knot pub, which I was the owner and manager till recently, where we sold our interest in the business. I'm also a partner in a wine and European food store in Rogers Park, which I'm the food buyer for. I've been in the food, beverage, hospitality industry for 30 years as an employee, also a consultant, and as a manager and owner. From bartending to teaching European cooking in Japan, where I did for 3 years, to owning and operating a successful bar and restaurant in Evanston. I believe my well-rounded professional experience in this industry will serve me well as we continue to grow this new adventure on the Howard Street neighbourhood. From start to finish, I'm passionate about all the aspects of this undertaking, especially the possibility of being part of revitalising the south of Evanston business, specifically Howard Street. We've been in Ward 8 quite frequently, and I've actually spoke to a lot of the people in Ward 8 that go there and drink and eat, and there is a necessity for things to improve in that area. And also, with the wine store, we've been vetting our clientele that come in there and speaking to everybody. Everybody's saying the same thing. They're so excited about what possibilities that are going to happen on Howard Street. And these are people who all live in that area. And also in the Celtic Knot, too. When I was there, we would talk to people about that, too, and a lot of people would say the same thing. So we have every confidence in this will work on Howard Street. And again, we don't have all the answers because a lot of the questions that were aimed by the gentleman were aimed to the city and about what the process is with that. So I'm sure eventually you guys will get answers in that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Evans. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My
Good
name is
evening.
Tom Fogarty, and I will be the brewer and brewery manager. I grew up in Pontiac, Illinois, which, if you don't know, is 100 miles straight south of Chicago on I-55, matriculated to Western Illinois. I moved to Chicago in 1990. My wife and I have been residents of Rogers Park for the last 16 years. It'll be 17 years in April. This is an exciting career change and a new venture for myself that I really have a passion in. I've been a passionate home all-grain brewer for 4 years. Our intention is to make beer that people drink and enjoy, not out to be the next Budweiser, for certain. But we'll introduce Belgian-style ales, German wheat beers, English-style bitters, ambers, Scottish and Irish ales, IPAs, and stouts. We'll produce seasonal beers, such as a pumpkin ale around Halloween. We look to produce beers for beer dinners, where Debbie will pair foods with the beers that we produce. And again, it's a pleasure to be here. And again, it's an opportunity for a very exciting second career.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And one more.
Yeah. Hi, I'm India Mazal-McKay. I'm going to be one of the managers. Grew up in Evanston, went through all Evanston school systems, Lincoln, Nichols, ETHS. It's the only place I've ever called home. We, in kind of conjunction with what they've said, we really look forward to, trying to make this into not just a brewery restaurant, but, be involved in the city and, really take interest in revitalizing that neighborhood. And as they said, Ward 8's been doing great. We know the people over there. And there really is kind of the need for a lot of people say that there is a need. Everything's either downtown Evanston or, in the city, and there's not a lot of options, especially in that South Evanston, also drawing from the Rogers Park crowd. And so, we're all really excited about it, and that's me.
Great, welcome, thank you. Alderman Rainey?
I would really like it if Johanna Neiden would get up and explain some of the details of the contract and of the payment. I know over time, especially since Ward 8 came into being, there is this horrible misconception that the city is giving away money, which is tantamount to saying when you go to the bank and borrow money for your house and you get a mortgage, that the bank is giving away money. You're paying it back every month. We are simply serving, it's very unique, it's outside the box, but we are serving as the bank, and that's all there is to it. We're serving as the bank. We are doing an incentive to Jamie and Debbie and the group that if they get it done by a deadline, we will give them an incentive. Frequently, cities all over the country give contractors incentives, as do private developers offer incentives to contractors who finish on time. There is nothing unusual about that. The building costs $400 and some odd thousand. We agreed maybe a year ago, I don't remember exactly when the original vote was taken, that we would use $200,000 out of the TIF to put into this building to do the basic necessities to bring it up to code. Now, I know a few of us have been in the building and gone with a detailed checklist to see what the problems are in that building. We know there's lots of problems. But we also know that over the years, there have been no sales tax generated out that building. There have been virtually no customers in that building, other than years ago there was an older man named Mr. Kim who had a cigarette and lottery shop. He operated all the time. He had customers. But for the most part, the place that is the wine bar and the 623 Howard Street have been dead wood on Howard Street. Perhaps if they had only been deadwood, it would have been a good thing, but they were an attraction for nuisances and uncivilized behavior. So what we're going to have, and I don't know what all the nattering nabobs of negativism are going to do when all of these things become successful. What are they going to do? Where are you going to get a life? I mean, how are you going to deal with day-to-day things if you don't have Howard Street to criticize, or if you don't have our staff to criticize? So far, there is no more successful operation in the city of Evanston. And I know there's Found Restaurant, but anybody who frequents Ward 8, drives by it, goes there, knows they can't be any more successful. They've got a guy out in front of that door sometimes saying, "I'm sorry, we cannot let you in. I'm sorry." They're hiring extra people. This business is going to hire 30 people. There have never been, in the 30 years that I've been working Howard Street, there have never been 30 people in that entire block, so inside the facilities there. So this is going to be it's almost a miracle. When you think just a little over a year ago, I was taking you all by these buildings and we were hiring people to cover up the windows so nobody could see in, that we actually have one of the most famous Evanston chefs and her entourage, who actually, I mean, we aren't forcing them to be there. They want to be there. And to me, that's just the most exciting thing in the world. And I will tell you, it is exciting for the neighbors. If they're going to do outside performance, you know we're going to have a process in place where they're not going to be able to have certain decibel levels. You know that. So to say, oh, you got a stage in the My God, it was only filled with dog feces before. Now it's going to have a stage and a patio. And you're complaining? Ugh. I think enough. The lease to own. This is a lease to
Ms.
own.
Neiden,
Good evening,
help us
Madam
understand
Chair.
the details that make this work.
Sure. Johanna Neiden, Economic Development Coordinator. The item before you is the lease to own agreement. It's a 5-year agreement with the option for the Pekesh LLC to purchase at the end of the 4th year. All rent paid between now and or when the lease is signed and the option to purchase is exercised will be paid toward the ultimate purchase price. And right now that is set at $675,000. That accounts for $475,000 that the city used to purchase the property in late 2011, and that was the funds used for that were the Economic Development Fund. However, the TIF is repaying annually for 10 years the Economic Development Fund. The $200,000, which is also part of the purchase price, is what was approved on December 12th, 2011, through a reimbursement resolution by the City Council to spend $200,000 towards rehabbing the building. The building needs new windows. Right now it's divided into 5 separate spaces. Their work needs to be done to demo that and to combine into one space. There's no air conditioning in any of the spaces. The HVAC would not be adequate for is barely adequate for 5 individual storefronts, let alone a single user. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done with that. It contemplated in this agreement is also that the city would provide no maintenance support. The restaurant would be responsible for paying the taxes, snow removal, all the things that we might expend money now will be covered by this restaurant. Finally, there was a mention of the zoning. The Pekesh has done a zoning analysis with our zoning staff. They will need to provide off-street parking, and they're going to work to, I believe, come before ZBA with a zoning variance for the parking requirement. So they are well aware of the zoning requirements and are working towards resolving those.
Alderman Holmes? Thank you, Ms. Neiden.
Is there a formula or an example of what vanilla box is? Because I guess that's one of the issues in terms of what maybe we consider vanilla box versus what somebody else considers. Does the city have a specific description of that?
Generally, there isn't. Vanilla box varies depending on what space and what industry you're in. Usually, it's the basics: plumbing, HVAC, finished floor, walls that are ready for priming. It's essentially a vanilla box. Sometimes they call it's a cold vanilla box or a warm vanilla. I mean, it depends on what the situation is. But we would be delivering the property similar to what we did with Ward 8, taking care of the basic plumbing and HVAC and demo and prep work, floor work.
And were there any problems distinguishing between those expenses that were the city's responsibility versus the renter's responsibility with regard to Ward 8?
Not at all, because we worked up front with them with what will require, and the item, the $200,000 item for the reimbursement of vanilla box work will be before the Economic Development Committee on Wednesday night, so we can talk more about it then as well. But that those dollars, when we went through with Ward 8, the contractors knew what were TIF-eligible expenses versus what were restaurant build-out expenses. And we up front went through all the items and the scope of work and said, this is what qualifies as a vanilla box, and this is what qualifies as restaurant build-out.
And who managed that for the city?
Steve Griffin in the Community Economic Development Department and his staff.
Thank you. Alderman Rainey?
I think in this case, vanilla box is really a misnomer. What we're really doing to a great extent is bringing the code up, the electrical, the plumbing. So you could have, like Johanna said, you could have a vanilla box on new construction, and you turn over. I mean, a good example is at Dempster and Dodge. Some of those spaces are perfectly cleaned up, polished up, and they're literally a vanilla box. But in this case, we're doing, I mean, for $200,000, we're doing plumbing and air conditioning and heating, and so I think it's really more code issues. But I would like to say one thing, that there have been complaints lately about special treatment whereby the city is actually shoveling sidewalks in front of its own stores, its own buildings. We are trying to set an example for the rest of the business community, Mr. Peach and Elaine. We are shoveling our snow, no matter whether it's an inch or 2 inch. And I will be on the phone the minute the snow falls, calling Mr. Mayworm or Miss Robinson and reminding them that we own buildings on Howard Street that need to have the shoveled. So, you know, that, when you have to stoop to complain about the city shoveling its sidewalks, I think you're really desperate for things to complain about.
Let's be mindful of the unveiling of the portrait, which is supposed to happen in 5 minutes. We still have a number of agenda items, and this is on our agenda for introduction tonight. Okay. So, Alderman Burris?
First, I want to say thank you for putting together a packet of material that we can actually have a lot of data and can read and feel relatively good about. So I really do appreciate that, because I've asked for this for many other projects. The only thing I see missing, and hopefully we will have before something is signed, are the financials for the two investors. It says that there are financials to follow for both the brew piece and the other, and so will we have those financials before we sign on the dotted line? I think it's extremely important, particularly if we're with tax dollars, that we know that this can be paid back.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And also, Johanna, I don't know if you did, but you did the demographic study comparing Howard Street demographics with Church Street, 600 block of Church Street demographics. Could you share that with the council too?
Unfortunately, I didn't bring that down with me from upstairs,
like
but basically,
before the next meeting.
Absolutely, we can include that.
Right.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
All right. Thank you. This has been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Madam Mayor, would you like us to suspend the meeting right now? Great.
What's that, 7 o'clock?
We are temporarily adjourned. Thank you.
We've got 5 minutes.
We're
Temporarily adjourned for the unveiling of Mayor Morton's portrait.
Okay. Oh, they're coming in here. Are we going out there?
I walked in. I thought this was a bear skin. It scared the. I don't have my glasses on. I walked.
this?
Yeah.
It's hot right now.
I just would like to know if
Yeah, no.
any particular place where I should be sitting.
You see that reserve row? You could sit there. Or you could sit next to Mayor Morton, who is crowded over there right now.
See if there's any room. She's got a lot of friends who want to sit with her. She's a very popular lady.
I know. She drew quite a crowd.
I've never seen so many people here. I think I might. We're going to start at 7.
Whenever the mayor.
I'll get a drink of water. Is there a fountain right down there?
There is, but let me ask Mayor Twistle. I have a mic here.
Everybody, welcome, and please find a seat if you can. Come on in, everybody. We're going to have the unveiling soon, so come on in and find a seat. I have this under complete control. I saw that.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you? All right. Godwin? Okay. I'm going to say a little bit, and then you guys are going to flip it, and then Lorraine will talk,
right,
and I'll read what Hardy had to say, okay?
I have to find Richard.
Okay. Godwin, as soon as you have, let me know. All right, everybody ready? Yeah. Mayor Morton, we're ready to go. All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming. This is an incredibly great event, and what you're about to see is beautiful. But the Lorraine H. Morton Civic Center is a wonderful place, but there has been something not quite right about it. One thing is, there are two things that are wrong with the Lorraine H. Morton Civic Center. One is you don't come by enough, Lorraine, so that's a problem. And the other is we don't have a portrait of you. So we're going to solve that one, and you better help solve the other problem and come by and visit more often. It is an incredible honor for me on the part of the council to welcome you all and to... Where's Richard? There you are. And to have an incredibly talented, brilliant artist who has done all the paintings that you see as you come up the stairs of firemen, policemen. So he has now surpassed even his incredible talent with what he's done here. So Richard, go ahead and speak.
After Mayor Morton retired and before this building was named after her, I thought, as many did, that something should be done to recognize her for all of the contributions she's made since she first came to Evanston quite a long time ago, I think. And then one evening, that's what I heard. And then one evening, Mayor Tisdale suggested that I paint a portrait of her, which gave me the opportunity to, in fact, create a special tribute. So I started collecting photographs of her. The ones I found most helpful were actually by two friends, both remarkable Evanston photographers. I based the painting on a classic photograph by Rich Foreman that had been fixed in my memory since I saw it, I think, in the 1990s sometime. And to that, I added elements from photographs by Jeannie Lemieux, who's out here snapping away somewhere. I think there she is. Jeannie has an uncanny ability to capture fleeting nuances of expression, so it was extremely helpful. So in many ways, this has been a collaboration between the three of us. Actually, there have been many people who have been involved in this. Godwin Chen, who's standing right over there, has been working closely with me throughout the whole thing. And I'd like to mention the family at Tremaine and Company, who were very patient with us and gave us a special price on the frame. For years, I prided myself on having a particularly unique relationship with Mayor Morton, until one day it occurred to me that half of the people in Evanston consider themselves personal friends of Mayor Morton. So with this portrait, I wanted to say something about what makes so many of us so drawn to her and to feel we have personal friendships with her. Her warmth and vitality come to mind, of course. Her genuineness, but also the gravity with which she approaches a subject that she feels deserves serious consideration. I think the most fascinating thing about her, though, is how she can shift with ease between that warmth and that seriousness, flowing so naturally that you don't even notice it happening. If you've ever been in private conversation with her, and I think the vast majority of you have had that experience, you know that she can engage you in a way that is comforting, but it never allows you to be complacent. That is the power of a good teacher. She can lull you with that beautiful voice, and the next thing you know, she has created a bond with you on some very important issue, or she has presented a perspective that you hadn't even considered yet. Mayor Morton is a lady, but she is very solid, and she is very, very influential. Now, I've studied lots of portraits in my life, and I can say that occasionally you can see one that represents ideals that even go beyond the individual who's portrayed, ideals worth perpetuating for future generations. My hope, my ambition for this portrait is that it can do something of that sort. I'd like for it to be a reminder for all of us in the future of two particular ideals that Mayor Morton advocated while she was mayor. Number one is the need for building bridges between people who have diverse needs and interests. I heard her say something of that sort the first time I heard her speak publicly. Number two is the need for civility in that process. And I've heard her speak of that both publicly and privately. Those are principles that are epitomized by the mayor's example, and I think an ongoing way to honor her would be to ensure that those two principles guide all of the business that takes place here in the center that bears her name. So, Mayor Morton, thank you from all of us. I hope you and everyone who loves you and admires you feels that I have done justice with this portrait.
I'm coming.
Go ahead, do what you do.
No, this is yours. You get the mic.
I don't believe that's me. That is gorgeous. Oh, how long will that picture last, Richard? Oh, this is gorgeous. You know one thing I want all of you to know, that when you deal with a top portrait artist, they do a lot of strange things. He came over to my house and measured my head from here, you know, and then back and then this side to make sure that my eyes were here, this close to my nose. But he is a professional, and I am so honored that you did this, Richard, because, see, I happen to know that he is a renowned portrait artist. Now, wait a minute. Come here, my mayor. I can't thank you enough.
Oh, it's from the whole city
He
council.
told on you. He said it was your idea. And so I just thank you for doing this. Really, good things are just going on. I just love it. Because I remember we were at Summer Fair, and the aldermen were talking, and Ann Rainey said, we should name the Civic Center after Lorraine. Mm-hmm. Darn if you didn't. I tell you, and I am so... I have to tell you, I'm just enthralled that all of this has happened. This is just gorgeous. But in addition to that, I thank all of you for coming out. It is so good to see you, people who have helped me, supported me from day one, starting with Jay Lytle, who put me into all this. And Jay may as well take credit for it or blame, either way you want to look at it. But that's the guy who did it. And then as I look among you, I see so many of you who have helped me with one thing or another. The only thing you haven't helped me with is washing dishes. Other things all up to the bank. Name it, and you have helped me. It was so nice, too, to see some people here who have given good counsel to all of us, to Liz, to me, to everybody. I am truly, truly grateful for this. And I have to say something about my family. I didn't know this. My daughter, you know, of course they told all the family, because I'm a family-oriented person. And they told all the family that this was happening. And I didn't think I thought I'd hear from them later. And then I went out the other day, and my daughter had told me, said, Mama, said, Larry and I are coming by your house about 12 o'clock. I said, okay, I'll be home. But I went to a deacon's meeting that morning, and when I left, I said, well, I think I'll do a little shopping. So naturally, I didn't get back home at 12 o'clock. So my cell phone rings. It's my daughter saying, Mama, I told you I would be over there about 12. Where are you? I said, I'm just leaving. I'm coming. I walk into my house and walk in the back room where I sit. And I looked over there, and my niece from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, had come for this event. I tell you, I am just thrilled with all of this. Just thrilled to have had a portrait by you. And to have all of what I consider friends here tonight to be with me for this wonderful, wonderful occasion. Now, I want to say one other thing. You know I'm going to talk.
Really?
You know, I don't know how many of you here know what a jewel you have with the mayor here, with Liz. A jewel. And I hope now, Liz, you got to surpass me. You got to go 20 years. Well, if you don't go 20, you got to match my 16, okay? One way or the other. I want to thank all of you. I understand we're going outside for a little reception, and I'd love to talk to each one of you. I'd like to get a hug from everybody. I tell you, I just am so thrilled over this. And you know, when you get my age and you have something like this happening to you, how many folk have that? I'm number one in that because of my age. And I want to say to everybody here, so you know for sure, December the 8th, last year, I became 94. So I know you understand my gratitude for this, that this could have happened after I was dead. But it's happening now all because of you, Liz. It was you who brought it for
Well, you
your
stayed
council.
alive. That was good.
Well, thank you all so much for coming.
Can I get the mic for just 1 second? Lorraine, these flowers are from the council to you.
Oh, thank you.
And I have a message from Dr. Murphy, who could not be here because he's at a school board meeting. But he said District 65 has a school board meeting tonight, and I cannot personally attend tonight's event. Congratulations to Lorraine, Mayor Morton, on the honor that this occasion represents. The unveiling of your portrait at City Hall recognizes your exemplary service to the city of Evanston. The portrait will preserve the image of a distinctive leadership that characterized your tenure as mayor. Additionally, through your many roles in a lifetime of public service in our community, I believe the Morton Way defined our uniquely Evanston experience of progressive change to improve the quality of life for all the residents in our city. As an agent of change for the greater good, you help move Evanston forward on political, social, and educational issues in a number of roles. While this work of art may hang at City Hall, I know that your presence is felt all across this city and will be for generations to come. By leading through challenging times as mayor, as a council member, principal, and teacher, you have personally touched the lives of so many in this community. I believe that your portrait captures more than the image of a beautiful person with a zest for life. I know that it will come to symbolize all that is possible with committed service and leadership. For all of us in District 65, your students, colleagues, and parents, please accept our gratitude for the dedication, tenacity, and humanity that characterized the Morton Way and bettered the lives of so many in our district that will leave an everlasting presence across Evanston.
Oh, how nice.
All right, I have one last announcement. There is cake. Benison's has donated a cake, and there are other goodies in the antechamber. Let's go party.
You know, I told Martin, as he was reading that, I remember when he read about her, and he really captured that, that personality, that little bit of leadership, but a little nicety of it. Don't you think? I wish I could draw like that. Very good. How long have you covered this city? I don't even know. Okay,
And I left for 30-some years after Steve lost lot of other places along the way.
I had an aunt lived in Kingman. Yeah. So they all have a self Well, I tell you what, driving over here is a lot better than loading airport. I have never been so intimidated in my life to get the rental car out of here and back.
Well, if you live there, you kind of get there. But it's a little bit like Ridge Avenue. Real narrow layout.
Now, big.
Better access to the airport. Morning? I don't know. We could have it's very nice in a whole lot of ways. You can't go very fast getting anywhere in the city. What's my cousin's
Steve Ellison shows you miss sitting in one of these.
Adjuncts or
no, full time.
Okay. Well, that had to be kind of fun.
It was.
If I got your spot, I just. Boston. I did not know that about it.
Oh, sure. Oh, I heard that. Next time you're
Excuse me, young man, stay away from me. This is a bad place for it.
Hey, I got all the good women here.
that for, I ride horses to go to soccer games, so please come by Tennis
Mayor Morton. All right, you're gonna. Picture real quick. Can you help your grandmother get to cut the cake? Can we take a picture with her? Yeah. Sure. And I'll get her out of here. All right. All right, Peter. We got to get a picture, and then Lorraine's gonna cut the cake. Okay. Constance, did you get it? Okay. Elizabeth, here. I'll Carol.
Sure, absolutely.
All right, you want to get in front, you can shoot.
I was waiting for her to go that way, but it looks like it might be a long wait.
I'm trying to get her to move into cake cutting, and I have totally lost control of
You're
this
not
event.
having any
I'm a very powerful mayor. Everybody listens to me.
Yes. Awesome.
Can I go back?
Tender.
Yes.
How's retirement? Wait a minute. When's it? It's been how long? A month?
Oh my God, really?
Monday? Yeah. 7 weeks.
Yeah.
7 weeks.
Oh, shit. We could get rid of P&D really quickly.
All right. Mayor Morton's going to cut cake soon. Well, I've lost total control of this event. Okay. Okay. We're going to go cut. All right, there will be a cake cutting momentarily. Oh, here. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
All committee members are called to come back to the dais. Yes. All committee members come back to the dais, please.
I got it.
I talked to him. I texted him. You may want to. Yeah.
I think so, yes.
I'm not going to.
Yep, watch over the court.
Can we put the bear rug in front of you?
Did it not look like a bear?
It looked like a bear escape.
I'm sorry.
Any back yet? Any members back yet?
Yes, we need. We got 2 more coming. And Alderman Rainey.
What committee is it?
Probably, that's very heavy.
Committee? Administrative and Public Works are to resume in 3 minutes. Administration and Public Works will resume in 3 minutes. All committee members, please come to the dais.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. I know everyone would like to do that, but
It's like a reunion.
a little bit like a reunion.
Too bad you guys can't come with and hang out.
That's okay. Enjoy. Enjoy. That's good enough. Okay.
Where's that? And I'm saying, where's that air coming from?
Do you want me to bring you a piece of cake?
Yeah, bring a piece. Yes.
No,
I would love to have a piece of cake. Yes.
Big piece, little piece. Corner over the middle.
I love
Icing,
corn.
not icing.
Not a lot of icing.
Can I follow you downstairs?
Yes.
Oh, hi. I'm Carrie. You know what? I would claim them for you. And I
This was, I told
Wow. Such a pleasure to finally meet you. Yes, that's what I am.
Dana, I understand you are on the advisory board of the community partners? Yeah, I know. It would have been nice if they had to put that here. I said it would have been nice if they had to list the board somewhere here. Well, I mean, I think it's nice to know when there are Evanston people involved.
It's a good group, but we don't.
It's a good group, but I have lots of issues. Oh. Oh, okay. I have issues with land trusts. I just do.
With the land trust?
Well, I had issues with the lighthouse one because it never should have happened. But that's a whole nother story. I think this Highland Park group is a good group. I don't have any issues. I think the Highland Park group is a good group. I don't have any issues with them, but I just need to make sure that everything was done correctly in terms of. No, but I mean in terms of the transfer. Because when they dissolved or whatever they did, they didn't come back to us. I did talk to Sarah about it today. Yes. P&D does follow us.
So to resume our regularly scheduled program, with grateful thanks to the Lorraine H. Morton Fan Club for coming tonight. And the Administration of Public Works Committee apologizes to those celebrating in the anteroom. Alderman Rainey, we look forward to you joining us.
She's stuck in the crowd somewhere.
All right. To pick up where we left off, we're on agenda item A8, which is ordinance 23013, amending the city code relating to parking on Harrison Street. This is, by the way, the first of two items to adjust parking regulations on Harrison Street. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Is there a second? I'll second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Item A9 is ordinance 24013, amending the city code relating to parking on Harrison Street, Eastwood Avenue, and Davis Street.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. A9 is ordinance 25013, amending the Class Y liquor license to permit the sale of alcoholic liquor, in other words, spirits, wine, and unrefrigerated beer for off-premises consumption.
Move for approval. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. We have two items for discussion. The first is discussion of the City Lit project in the 700 block of Howard Street.
Madam Chairman, members of the committee, just brief report. I've been in discussions with the low bidder of the project, Bowler Construction, and talked to and began the discussion about value engineering. In other words, was there anything extraordinary in the bid documents? Is there any extraordinary costs that there couldn't? So I'm going to get more information on that. The other thing that's tricky about it is because it's a TIF-funded project, there's an issue of a tear down versus reconstruction, so we're also working with that. So those are the two updates I have. We continue to be in contact with the City Lit people with contemplated leases, and again, hopefully I'll be able to report more favorably on some lower cost due to value engineering. That's my only report.
Great, thank you. Alderman Rainey?
Yeah, could you start over? Somebody didn't have the courtesy to wait till I got here. It was hard for me to get in here. So could you just
with the update?
I missed the entire conversation.
I just told the committee, Alderman Rainey, that I had conversations with Bowler Construction, who is the low bidder, about any extraordinary costs that were in the bid documents, and I'm beginning to have that discussion with them to find out if there is a different way, a different spec we can bid that, and so they'll be back in touch with me. Additionally, I told the committee about our ongoing discussions with City Lit on different terms and what they can finish the project with, and that hopefully after my discussions with Bowler and the architect, I'll be able to report more fully back to the committee on lower cost options for the facility.
Who was involved with the discussions with Bowler?
It was just me with the president of Bowler Construction.
But the architect wasn't
I have
there?
not called him yet.
No.
That's my next meeting.
Next time you have one of those meetings, I'd like to know
Certainly.
about it. I just feel that.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Another item for discussion is APW2, discussion of the local preference for purchasing. It's our local employment preference or local Evanston-based enterprise preference. And thank you, Alderman Rainey, for referring this to the committee. Do we want to discuss this in full tonight or just begin the discussion given the hour and the meetings that await us?
Madam Chair, I agreed with Peter that we could hold this.
All right, let's do that.
But I wish people would think about it because I don't want to just have a, discussion when nobody's given any real thought to it. Just think about some of the bids we've had And maybe staff could also give us some data showing, for example, just randomly pick out bids that are under 50,000, over 50,000, over $1 million, and see who's bidding on them. Just as sketchy as you can do it without getting into all the details of, time, and I just think that would be helpful, because my theory is that the big bids are not being, the provision is not really helpful on the big bids because there aren't the giant bidders, with a few exceptions, and that's J.A. Johnson. But the bids like tonight, the transmission bid, we ought to do everything humanly possible with pre-bid meetings, et cetera, to get people into the system in Evanston, even pre-qualify them to some extent. But my real reason for bringing this up was the bidding that went on the theater. And that was 25 contractors or so came to the meeting with a bunch more of subcontractors. And, they were new to city bidding, and they had no idea about the 5%. And, of course, they weren't Evanston contractors, with the exception of J.A. Johnson. And they just found that when you get up into the larger dollars, like $1 million and more, a 5% advantage is a huge amount of money. So that's why I want to talk about it.
Okay. So while we have this moment, is there any additional information that we could consider in the meantime that would be helpful to a robust discussion then in 2 weeks? Alderman Holmes?
Think about it
and then submit request to Mr. McRae. Thank you,
Well,
Mr. McRae. Yeah.
Well,
Alderman Holmes?
based upon what Alderman Rainey said, I certainly have thought about it, and I want to think about it some more. But I want it to be limited to bids that are under $50,000, because I do think that there are other areas. So if you're giving us some examples of bids, I would like for it to go much higher than $50,000 to $100,000, so that we can look at that. Yeah. Because I understand the $1 million ones, but
And just a point of clarity, Joe McRae, Deputy City Manager. In terms of samples of bids, are you looking for samples of bids where the 5% has actually come into play?
No,
or just random across?
Just random to see, how did that work out there?
Okay.
That's really what I mean. And yeah, 25,000 increments. Yeah. 25, 50. Oh,
50,
absolutely.
50,000.
All right, great.
Okay.
Anything else?
That's it.
Any other communications? Motion to adjourn?
One
Yes, ma'am.
other question. Can we take, I've been thinking about this, Dolores, can we take a kind of purchase and say only Evanston contractors can bid on it?
I'm looking to the law department because I need to understand.
Can that be a question that gets answered in writing or at our next meeting?
Okay.
All right. Great. Thank
Sorry.
you, Mr. McRae. A motion to adjourn, a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Planning and Development will convene in
now,
this room immediately.
Dolores, I'm thinking like 25,000. You got to, if
Peter,
there are those.
Peter, did you tell Judy and Don to come on so we can get started?